Hello my viewers, and welcome to another thought-provoking video where we take a look into the contentious debate surrounding the concept of voting for the lesser of two evils in American elections, particularly in the context of the ongoing presidential race between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Now, as Americans grapple with choices at the ballot box, voices from across the political spectrum weigh in on whether this approach truly serves the interests of the electorate or perpetuates a cycle of compromise and dissatisfaction. Now, amidst the polarizing rhetoric questions emerge about the ethical implications of settling for candidates perceived as the lesser evil. Is it enough to simply oppose the incumbent, or do voters deserve better alternatives that align with their values and aspirations for the future? Now, these questions spark passionate discussions about the role of leadership, accountability, and moral integrity in the political landscape. So with that said, join me as we explore the diverse perspectives on the upcoming election, from those who advocate for pragmatic compromise to others who demand principled leadership and meaningful change. As the stakes grow higher, the choices we make at the ballot box carry profound implications for the future of the nation and the world. So prepare to be challenged, provoked, and inspired as we navigate the complex terrain of electoral ethics and the quest for a better, more just society. Now, this is a conversation that demands our attention, our critical engagement, and our commitment to shaping a future that reflects our highest ideals and inspirations. With that said, check out these videos. I will be right back.
Joe Biden is about to send black and brown people halfway across the fucking world to fight a white man's war. Is that what you mean by lesser of evils? Is it? And on this page, I center blackness, so I'm talking to you black content creators out here that keep pushing this fucking vote blue no matter who bullshit. Is this your lesser of evils, since you've made Joe Biden your fucking god? It's obvious that you are fine. You are perfectly comfortable with the suffering and the mass unaliving of brown people across this fucking globe. You have the audacity to ask us, what did Joe Biden do to us? Well, hold on and we'll give you a fucking answer. It depends on how many of our children come back in body bags. And you lie to our people and tell them that our ancestors died for the right to vote. Our ancestors did not die to send our children, black and brown people, across this fucking globe to kill other black and brown people. At the fucking best, you're the ones Harriet would have shot. Iran has every fucking right to defend itself, because Israel aimed and fired missiles at their land. And Joe Biden is a proud self-proclaimed Zionist. And you know it. You also know that Zionism is rooted in white supremacy. And you can get on board with all of that. You were fine with all of that. Use all of these goddamn false equivalencies and shit like that, trying to make black people feel bad when we say that we cannot vote for a goddamn war criminal, knowing damn well that the possibility of this escalating to this point was greater than you would ever fucking admit, but you knew it. Just like I know it. Just like all of these black people out here that are saying that we cannot vote for a goddamn war criminal, a racist, inflaming war criminal, knew it. How much did they fucking pay you to sell out your own people on this stupid fucking app? What is the price of a black life to you? Yeah, I'm talking to black people, my people. And any of you that come across these goddamn content creators pushing this vote blue, no matter who, ask them, what is an acceptable price for a black life? Because the bullshit that they are pushing is leading to our death. You fucking ask them.
Somebody told me today that I have to vote for the lesser of two evils for president. Why am I voting between two evils? Why is that my choice? Out of how many millions of people are in America? You're telling me this is the best we got? Trump and Biden, that's the best we got? Come on, man. Why don't we give me the option of voting for the better of the best? That would be different and unique. Let's do that.
Okay, I have a very silly, to put it nicely, video for you guys. Recently on Newsmax, they were trying to do their typical song and dance about Biden being too old, not being all there, etc., etc. But it did not go exactly according to plan, I don't think. Take a look.
Well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory, and he gave us examples. He said that Biden didn't know that Africa was a country. He couldn't remember the year that his son died.
Okay, I'm not going to really talk about that son comment because President Biden has discussed it a lot, except for the fact to note that, like, no matter who you are or what you're trying to do, it's just disgusting to make that comment about someone's kid who died of brain cancer pretty young. But moving on, did you catch something just a little bit off in this clip? Specifically the part where he said President Biden didn't know Africa was a country. I think President Biden didn't know Africa was a country because it's not. Africa is a continent. A continent that is actually comprised of 54 sovereign countries. And that's actually controversial because Africa was largely divided up into countries by the people who colonized it, not by the people who actually lived there. But we won't get into that right now. And it is curious to think about why this Newsmax host just kind of lumped all the African countries together and didn't even realize it, but we won't get into that either. And this could be as simple as just he misspoke, although I don't think it was. But it does demonstrate that Republicans have no business coming after other people. And across the board, including this clip and other examples, they're just a mess and they have no business coming after Joe Biden. They should be spending that energy getting themselves together.
I've never in my life seen anyone as cruel, rude, mean, vindictive, vengeful, hateful as Donald Trump is. My name is Janet. I live in a little town of Byron, Georgia. I thought in 2016 when I voted for Donald Trump that I voted for the lesser of the two evils. From the insurrection that he directly caused with his rhetoric in his mouth and inciting the people into doing what they did to our nation's capital is just beyond imagination. The sexual assault, and let's call it rape because that's what it was, to inflating property values to get better loan interest rates, to sharing our classified documents to anybody that wanted to look at them and brag about it, and his friendship with communist leaders is just unthinkable. Presidents are not supposed to do that. They're supposed to be for the country they represent. And I've been here almost 70 years, and I've never in my life seen anyone as cruel, rude, mean, vindictive, vengeful, hateful as Donald Trump is. Everything he says has to be fact-checked because 95% of the time or more, it is untrue. And the childish name-calling, I pray that you vote for Joe Biden this year because we do not need Donald Trump in the White House. There is no telling what he is capable of.
This November, we are not choosing between the lesser of two evils. Both parties are not the same. We have a choice in the presidential election. We can either A, choose somebody with a plan, somebody that has a vision for the future, somebody who actually cares about America, or somebody who says they can just fix everything in one day and thinks only about themselves and is just trying to avoid the law. Those are the two distinctions. And notice I didn't have to mention who's who for you to know. You know exactly which is which without me mentioning their names. Now, when you look at the Democrats versus Republicans as a whole, again, they're not the same. We're not choosing between the lesser of two evils. One side, their governors decided to refuse an already paid for program that would provide supplemental income to disadvantaged children for summertime food programs. Guess which side that is? Again, I don't have to tell you. One side said, no, you keep that money. For whatever reason, they are fiscally responsible only when it comes to getting money to poor people. If it's a tax break, if it's a grant, if it's a subsidy for the wealthy, they're all for it. And all of a sudden, the fiscal conservative nature just goes right out the window. This is not the decision between one side versus the other, and they're both the same. One is just the lesser of two evils. There's a very clear distinction in this election, and that is why you must vote blue in 2024 so we can get this country back on track, get rid of the wing of one party that does not care about the people. They only care about the grievances of one man, and they only want to get on Newsmax and Hannity to talk about it. Vote for the side that actually cares about the people, that wants this country to move forward, that has ideas, that has visions.
What do you say to voters who are upset that those are the two choices?
Get over yourself. Those are the two choices.
We are witnessing the death of the Democratic Party. I've never witnessed
a group of powerful people so hell-bent on losing the 2024 election. In 6 months, they have made genocide part of their ticket for 2024, and she's pretending that you're just being stubborn about not voting for Biden. Her, Biden, Harris, they all know exactly why you're not voting for them, or you are so disgusted with the Democratic Party. But instead of actually acknowledging that, they are going to gaslight you and pretend like you're just being annoying. Nobody's going to take you seriously as an opposition party by saying, if you don't vote for us, Trump is going to harm people, when your current ticket is committing, enabling, and funding a genocide. People don't have to wait for Trump to witness death and destruction. They're witnessing death and destruction via the Democratic Party, via you, with you alongside the Republicans, holding hands, committing a genocide.
That you support a man who says he can grab women without even...
So it boggles my mind that, women especially seem to have problems with Trump. Okay, again, I understand that there's been issues, but for God's sake, Clinton got caught with a page giving him oral sex in the White House. So if you're so blinded to think that there's not an issue with all men across the board, then you have problems. And we've all seen how creepy Joe is when it comes to little girls. But you don't have to look far to find traces of issues with Joe. I mean, IMDb, Biden incest and pedophiles confirmed. Hunter Biden has problems with the scandals as U.S. president's son. Down below, their Audacity, EP 2166, 9 a.m., Joe Biden daughter allegedly documented sexual abuse. So I don't understand, guys and gals. I mean, you have to get past, the fact is, all of our elected officials are creeps. They're thieves, and we have the best politicians money can buy. I think we deserve better in 2024. I really do. But I'm sorry. We have seen the damage that have been done by the Democrats and their open-minded policies with, allowing more LGBT activity in our schools, toward drag queens to come out and give in public, meetings with the school children and influencing them and doing things like, they're doing their, little jigaboo dances in front of the kids. So I'm sorry, being, gay is your privilege or your right or whatever, but the point is you're still the minority, you're still the minority, you're not the majority. And there's a lot of places in America to where that kind of stuff is just openly admitted. I mean, California, New York, you're okay. Florida, you're okay. But, other places like Iowa and maybe, Nebraska, you're going to have a harder time. Wyoming, you could have some serious problems. But the point is, we're all individuals and we have a right to speak our mind. I don't approve of any sort of, vandalism or violence against people. The point is, you don't have to like them. But no, ma'am, Joe Biden is a creep, and you can't deny otherwise. And he's got, Alzheimer's at least. The man is not fit for office. He needs to leave. Why the Democrats put him back up for 2024 is beyond me, but oh well. I guess they're desperate, and they're trying to hope that he gets reelected. But the fact is, if you think 1/6/2020 was bad, if Joe gets reelected at this time around, there's going to be some serious problems. Because we deserve better, and he's got to go. All right. Thank God it's Saturday. Hope you all enjoying your weekend. Be safe.
Now, the debate surrounding the concept of voting for the lesser of two evils in American elections is both contentious and deeply nuanced. On one side of the argument, proponents of this approach argue that in a political landscape often characterized by polarization and binary choices, voting for the lesser evil is a pragmatic and necessary strategy to prevent the greater harm. Now, they contend that while neither candidate may align perfectly with their values or ideals, one may represent a marginally better option in terms of policy, temperament, or leadership. However, critics of the lesser of two evils argument raise valid concerns about the moral and ethical implications of such a stance. Now, they argue that by settling for candidates perceived as the lesser evil, voters risk perpetuating a cycle of compromise and moral erosion within the political system. They assert that true democracy requires principled leadership and meaningful alternatives, rather than resigning to the status quo or accepting flawed candidates out of fear or expediency. Now, indeed, the notion that evil is evil, regardless of degree, resonates deeply with many who reject the idea of voting for candidates who fail to meet their standards of integrity, compassion, and justice. They assert that compromising on fundamental principles or values in the name of pragmatism ultimately undermines the democratic process and erodes the moral fabric of society. Now, in this debate, it's crucial to acknowledge the valid concerns and perspectives on both sides. While the agency of the current political moment may compel some to prioritize practicality over principle, it's important to remain vigilant in upholding our values and holding our leaders accountable to the highest standards of ethical governance. The decision of whether to vote for the lesser of two evils or to stand firm on principle is deeply personal and reflective of individual beliefs, priorities, and convictions. Now, some voters argue that in a two-party state, like the one in the United States, practicality often dictates the need to choose between the available options, even if they are imperfect. They may believe that abstaining from voting or supporting a third-party candidate is effectively relinquishing their influence and allowing the worst candidate to prevail. Now, for many voters, the decision to vote for the lesser of two evils hinges on specific policy priorities or areas of concerns. Now, they may prioritize issues such as healthcare, climate change, or social justice and believe that one candidate's policies are more aligned with their values or offer better solutions to pressing challenges. The historical context of past elections and political dynamics can influence voters' perceptions of the current candidates. Some may draw comparisons to previous elections where abstaining from voting or supporting third-party candidates led to unfavorable outcomes, reinforcing the idea of choosing the lesser evil as a pragmatic strategy. Now, the perception of harm posed by each candidate can vary widely among voters. While some may view one candidate as a clear and present danger to democracy, civil rights, or international stability, others may perceive the opposing candidate in a similar light. Now, this subjective assessment of harm can shape voters' decisions on whether to support the lesser evil. Some voters view the choice to vote for the lesser of two evils as part of a broader long-term strategy to effect change within the political system. Now, they may see incremental progress or mitigating harm in the short term as necessary steps toward larger systemic reforms of the emergence of more viable alternative candidates in the future. Despite pragmatic considerations, many voters grapple with ethical dilemmas when faced with the choice between candidates they perceive as morally compromised. They may question whether compromising on their values or principles in the short term is justified in the pursuit of long-term goals or the avoidance of perceived greater harm. Now, critics of the lesser of two evils argument often advocate for systemic changes to the political process, such as electoral reform, campaign finance reform, and increased support for the third-party candidates. They argue that these changes are necessary to break free from the constraints of a two-party system and provide voters with more meaningful choices. Ultimately, the debate on voting for the lesser of two evils underscores broader questions about civic engagement, accountability, and the responsibilities of both voters and elected officials. It challenges us to consider how we can uphold our values and principles while navigating the complexities of electoral politics and working toward a more just and equitable society. Now, for some, the presence of third-party candidates can complicate the decision-making process for voters considering the lesser of two evils. Some voters may feel torn between supporting a third-party candidate who more closely aligns with their values and concerns about the viability of such candidates in the current political system. For voters disillusioned with both major party candidates, abstaining from voting altogether may seem like a principled stance. However, abstention can also have consequences, as it may contribute to voter apathy, disengagement, and the perception of political indifference, ultimately shaping electoral outcomes. Now, in some cases, voters strategically employ the concept of voting for the lesser of two evils to prevent a specific candidate from winning, rather than actively supporting the chosen candidate. Now, this strategic approach may involve tactical considerations, such as voting against an incumbent or preventing a particular party from gaining control of government. Now, the impact of voting for the lesser of two evils can vary among different communities, particularly marginalized and historical disenfranchised groups. For example, members of marginalized communities may face disproportionate harm under certain political administrations, influencing their decisions on voting strategy and engagement. The debate on voting for the lesser of two evils is not unique to the United States and has parallels in other democratic societies around the world. International observers may offer insights into alternative electoral systems, voting strategies, and approaches to navigating similar ethical dilemmas in diverse political contexts. Now, the role of the media and political discourse in shaping perceptions of candidates as lesser evils cannot be overlooked. Biases, misinformation, and sensationalism in media coverage can contribute to distorted representations of candidates and influence voters' perceptions of their choices. Now, civil society organizations, advocacy groups, and grassroots movements play a crucial role in shaping public discourse on voting ethics and encouraging civic engagement. These groups may provide resources, guidance, and support to voters grappling with the complexities of electoral decision making. After the election, reflection on the consequences of voting for the lesser of two evils can inform future electoral strategies and advocacy efforts. Now, this retrospective analysis may prompt discussions about the effectiveness of voting strategies, the need for electoral reform, and the importance of holding elected officials accountable to their constituencies. Throughout history, voters have grappled with similar dilemmas of choosing between imperfect candidates. Studying past elections and the outcomes of voting for the lesser evil can provide valuable insights into the long-term consequences of such decisions and inform current electoral strategies. Psychological research sheds light on the cognitive biases and decision-making processes that influence voters' choices, including the tendency to weigh short-term gains over long-term consequences and the fear of loss aversion. Now, understanding these psychological factors can help contextualize voters' reasoning behind choosing the lesser evil. The dynamics of political parties, ideologies, and issues evolve over time, shaping voters' perceptions of what constitutes the lesser evil in any given election cycle. Changes in demographics, socioeconomic conditions, and cultural attitudes can also influence electoral outcomes and voter behavior. Ethical theories and frameworks offer analytical tools for evaluating the moral dimensions of voting for the lesser of two evils. Debates within moral philosophy such as consequentialism, deontology, and virtual ethics provide different perspectives on the ethical considerations involved in electoral decision making. In an increasingly interconnected world, the consequences of electoral decisions extend beyond national borders, impacting global economies, security, and diplomacy. Voters may consider the broader implications of their choices on international relations and global stability when weighing the options of voting for the lesser evil. Now, cultural norms, societal values, and collective identities shape the contours of political discourse and electoral behavior. Different cultures and societies may have varying attitudes toward the concept of voting for the lesser evil, influenced by historical experiences, religious beliefs, and cultural traditions. At its core, the debate on voting for the lesser of two evils reflects broader questions about democratic participation, representation, and legitimacy. It raises fundamental concerns about the responsiveness of political institutions to the needs and preferences of the electorate and the mechanisms for holding elected officials accountable. Engaging young voters in the debate on voting ethics is important for fostering a culture of civic responsibility and democratic participation. Educating youth and the complexities of electoral decision-making and empowering them to critically evaluate their options can cultivate informed and engaged citizens for the future. The debate on voting for the lesser of two evils is ongoing and dynamic, reflecting the evolving nature of democratic politics and social values. Continued dialogue, debate, and critical reflection are essential for navigating the complexities of electoral decision-making and advancing the principles of democracy and social justice. We have finally come to the end of the video. What do you have to say on this notion of voting for the lesser of two evils? Share your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you for watching and see you in my next video.